the Welborne plan has been formulated, has been through a public inquiry, has been found sound. I suppose if I try and draw a parallel, another development outside Fareham is the North of Whiteley development. Of course, the North Whiteley Forum, which I would note was only councillors, it didn't involve any community groups whatsoever. That was formed for the planning process, and then once the planning application was in and the local plan was approved, that group hasn't met anymore either. So it's not actually so different from how our colleagues in Winchester do it. Councillor Trott mentioned 3 areas that she thought would miss out on CAP meetings that happen in Fareham. She said Funtley, Wickham and Winchester. Actually, I thought Funtley was actually in Fareham. But of course, we have also got a good track record of holding meetings elsewhere than within the borough of Fareham. And I've certainly addressed meetings in Wickham on a number of occasions and in Knoll. So we can certainly go out to those areas as well as we have in the past. So they can still happen, but we are now moving to a different phase, and we're moving to the phase where the local plans have been approved and we're now waiting for planning applications to come in. So we've moved from plan making to delivery, and clearly that needs a very different approach to it. And if we need to make some tweaks to formats of particular CAP meetings for that, then I'm sure we can do that, but there will be many other for, I'm sure, in which people will be able to put their views, not least of which, of course, is the planning committee, when applications actually come forward. If by our actions 5 months ago, in bringing forward the possibility of compulsory purchase, we have brought the landowners together, and if the land is indeed now in their control, then of course that will be extremely good news and it will be job done. And I, for one, would be very happy if all of that moves forward properly and correctly to walk away from a CPO process, because it would no longer be necessary. But at the moment, until we can get that absolute cast iron guarantee that all of the land required for Welborne is within the control of the landowners and is able to come forward and available to be developed, so that those landowners and applicants can sign Section 106 agreements and guarantee the infrastructure which is needed for Welborne, then fine. But until that day comes, this council needs to proceed to look for certainty in the delivery of Welborne. And we've had a presentation last week, I think it was, in Fernham Hall, of some placards put up from Buckland, and presumably BST were involved as well, which showed the entirety of the Welborne site within a forthcoming planning application, which of course infers some sort of control, but it will be interesting, won't it, to see which landowners are planning applicants and which are merely served with a notice by the applicant, because the applicant does not control that land. And as I said, it is important that we have a final recommendation which will seek that certainty within 7 days from the principal landowners for Welborne. Anyway, who else would like to get in? Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think the point you've just raised, if this is the case, then that's really good news. I am slightly concerned. Obviously, Mr. Slattery was asked a question by you, and he gave an answer. I'm not quite certain what that meant, to be perfectly frank, but it seemed to be totally contrary to Mr. Smith's answer in February. So I think it's very sensible to have the additional recommendation that you put in, so we can have that clarified as well, actually. But going back to the other points, I think Councillor Evans and yourself have covered those points. I'm entirely happy with the recommendations, and we should move forward with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything from anybody else? Right, then the recommendations are before you, plus the additional recommendation which I proposed earlier. Are those agreed? Thank you very much.